Hello, and welcome to Start Talking, an Art Gallery of Windsor podcast, where we talk about everything and anything arts related in the Windsor-Essex community.
I'm Micaela, and I'm the Digital Initiatives Coordinator at the Art Gallery of Windsor.
And hi, I'm Abby Lee, and I am the Audience Engagement Coordinator, also at the Art Gallery of Windsor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Micaela Muldoon with the Art Gallery of Windsor, and I'm here with Cloé St-Cyr from Moment Factory. Today, we're going to be doing an interview about the scale and the types of digital projects that Moment Factory engages with, what it typically looks like, and how they know if a digital project is the right fit for their organization. So welcome, Cloé. Thanks for being here today.
Hello, Micaela. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And would you like to say a few things about yourself and about Moment Factory?
Sure. I've been working at Moment Factory for 9 years now. So I've really grown up, if I may say, professionally with Moment Factory. And so originally I'm an industrial designer. And so my work at first at Moment Factory was really revolved a lot around like materials and scenic design, like a bit more industrial design where my roots are. And with the time, I really learned all of the multimedia components and how to deal with interactivity and content and all of those. And when I was in school, I was really kind of scared that those were things that I would never be good at, or that, because I don't have a degree in that, I couldn't work on that, but I kind of learned about it through the work. So today, now I work as a multimedia director or a creative director on projects. And that's a little bit about me. I work within the narrative unit at Moment Factory, which we concentrate on cultural, patrimonial, artistic, galleries, just like the Windsor Art Gallery, but also museums, exhibitions, all of that. That's really my focus.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a great background to have. You sound very knowledgeable and creative.
Try.
Oh, and I'm sure you succeed too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So how do you guys know if a digital project is right for your organization?
I think since we work with such a vast array of different clients, and also we have such a vast different types of project internally at Moment Factory, I would say that what makes us clear about a decision of whether a project is, a good fit for us is mostly about kind of the humans and behind the project. So we try to push boundaries on a lot of our projects, and we try to propose different things and, bring critical yet creative ways to look at things differently and do things differently. And in order to do that, we need to have like a good trust relationship with the client, and to know that we're going to be able to have that space, and vice versa, to make sure that they're comfortable enough and they feel heard enough with us. So I would say on my side, it's really about kind of the relationship bond we can create with the humans, like across the table. That's what makes the best projects. And so we definitely don't choose the projects because of the humans, but very rapidly, if we get a sense of if there's going to be that space, if there's going to be that openness, if also there's like that creativity and that vision on the client side, we can hear that very, very fast. Like, I have this vision. I would like to do that. This positivity to strive kind of to do things differently is something that's very attractive for us, because in the end, we just want to have fun and propose great creative things that kind of push the boundaries on things. So I think making sure there's a vision behind and there's an openness, and that we're going to have a great teamwork relationship is one of the ways that we know, this project is going to be a good fit, because anything could be fun, right? We could work on the project on the sewers of Montreal if we wanted. We actually did, and it was amazing. So it's not about just the project, it's about the creative space we're creating. And multimedia also has this, we call it multimedia because we don't use all of them all the time. The multimedia are tools, and we select them for the project, right? So we know we're going to have a creative in for any type of project that comes in, because we have such a vast palette of tools, of digital tools to work with.
Yeah, obviously the human connection element with any project, digital or non-digital, you have to be able to connect with the other people who are involved in the project. So yeah, that's super important. Thank you for highlighting that. And we want to know, kind of branching off from there, what does it typically look like when you collaborate with an institution on a digital project?
Well, again, as I mentioned, it's really about building trust and building a creative relationship, right? So it's at first a lot of listening and a lot of making sure we understand well where everybody's at, and that we can propose something that fits. So it's a lot of listening. And also, because we work with such different types of clients, most of the time our clients are experts in their field, and we are not experts in their field. We're like a complementary type of expert that bring them the digital knowledge or the technical abilities to kind of create something. Also sometimes the creative vision, but the idea is that we're mostly in listening mode, and then we go back and we shake all that up, and we start proposing, and we start finding different ways and iterating and all of that. So I would say the first steps are really like listening and trying to, in French we say remarcher, but try to kind of like reword in our words what we heard and stuff. And then from there we go creative. And at times the creativity happens with the client, like in the case of the Boston Museum of Science project, Arctic Adventure. We really had a team in front of us that was kind of our equivalent creatively. So there was a scenographer on the other side, there were designers, they were content experts, all of that. And so we really just bounced off of each other in the sense that we did a lot of charrette. And so our collaboration was, again, very human, like in the same room for a day at a time. We would put both of our team together and we would just create and work and do things. And we had a very open book approach with them. Sometimes we do the things on our side and we present kind of the conclusion of our process to the client, although we show multiple steps on the way, we show all of that. But with that collaboration, we really dealt with it as if they were part of our team. So we would communicate kind of the ups and lows of the creative process, some problems that we would face and the ideas that we had to resolve them, but we also wanted them to pitch in on how they would think we could resolve that best or vice versa. So we had a really like open book relationship and really fed off of each other in like a really perfect symbiotic way. Because the fantastic thing about creativity is you put a lot of people with expertise around the room. And often it's not necessarily the people from the professional field that you would expect to solve a certain problems that comes up with the idea. It's often by putting a bunch of people around the table that you get an idea randomly from somebody else, and that gives an idea to another, and vice versa. And finally, you never quite know where ideas come from or who had it. It's mostly kind of a mix of building off of each other. And those are the best collaborative process. So when we can do that, and we certainly had that as well with Windsor Art Gallery, where we did some charrettes with Jennifer, exposed our ideas, and then she had ideas and that gave us our ideas. And so for me, a good collaboration is when you don't know where the idea came from and or who had it, because it's really a build of little tiny things all over the place and from everybody around the table that brings the idea to life, basically.
Right. So it's like the group projects that we all had to do in grade school and high school, only it's infinitely better because everyone actually contributes this time, right?
Exactly. And you don't have to deal with the person that doesn't want to work because everybody's excited and super competent around the table. I don't want people to think that like there's no place for weaknesses or things like that. Like on the contrary, a creative process is full of ups and downs, and everybody has weakness like during the process and all that. So there's space for that, and there's space for error and trial. And we always say like the idea is to fail often, fail fast. It's really the more you try, the more it's like okay next. So there's like an infinity of ideas out there. So what I meant by saying that is I think that what's really cool about having this type of group project approach in the professional field is that everybody's just so happy to be there and participate in a full way. So that's cool. Everybody has their personality, and that's also part of a group, but everybody brings, I like to think, something very special. The human collaboration, it's really like, this is it, the process, the humans around the table. It's always all about that.
You all come together as individual pieces of the puzzle, and then when it's all put together, that's when the image, the final project comes about, once everyone puts in their own unique contribution.
Exactly.
Okay, so we want to know also, is there a big difference between large scale and small scale institutions that you work with? Obviously, budget is one of them, one of the factors, but what else?
I can start with kind of responding in the negative to that. Like what stays the same is the amount of work that you have to do to have an idea and make it happen. Like it's not because it's a small project that you don't spend as much time simplifying or making sure an idea is good. Like that's a mistake that often people make, is thinking, oh, it's a small project, it won't take time. No. The amount of work we're going to have to do to make it intelligent, to make it work, is the same always. Like that's the creative process. What then changes a lot is, for example, when we enter in production, like if the idea is more simple to produce, then it might be a smaller team, or it might be smaller technological means that will be used to do it. And that changes kind of the vastness of the team. But I would say the first steps are always very similar, whether it be like a humongous project or a small project. That doesn't change, but what changes is the means we need to make it happen technically and technologically afterwards during production. Another thing that changes in the process is the amount of people around the table, right? So with working with big institutions like the Boston Museum of Science, we were faced with a big team of a lot of people, and everybody had their say. And so it's more time, it's more communication, it brings a lot of richness to a project because there's a lot of expertise around the table. But in the case of working with Jennifer, we were mostly just with her. So it was very simple for us to kind of get a glimpse of what she likes, and also how we didn't have to kind of figure out the opinions of multiple people and find a consensus. We had a simpler consensus that was achievable. So the scale of the team changes on a communication wise. The creative part is the same always. Like I think the smallest projects sometimes take the most time on a creative side, because when you have to make choices, when you have to, they always say, I don't know who said that, but there's this author that wrote a letter to someone at some point in history and was like, I would have written a shorter letter to you, but I didn't have the time. Hence, you're getting a long letter, So smaller projects constrict us in making our ideas more dense and simpler. And simplification is often more complex than, oh, we have 5 rooms, we can do all of our ideas, and we have all this budget, we can do everything we want. Whereas, oh, we don't have a lot of budget, we don't have a lot of space, we don't have a lot of time. Okay, we need to make decisions. And it actually takes more time to arrive at that distilled end product.
And do you find in those cases that less is more?
You're right. Less is more always. It should be something we strive for all the time. And generally speaking, it's the most simple ideas that are well executed that work best. So you're right. Less is more. Sometimes we start with big and then we arrive with small. Sometimes we keep big and we go all over the place. And that also has its virtue in a way that it can be very exciting as well. So it really depends of the context. There's certainly not one that's more enjoyable than the other. That's one thing that's for sure. A creative challenge is a creative challenge and has its interest, whether it be small or big.
And speaking of challenges too, sometimes even if a project is amazing, it's perfect, the trouble can be to make people in that community aware that it exists, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you have a small marketing budget.
Yes.
So do you have any tips or things that you've seen in the past with previous projects where institutions and Moment Factory were able to get the local audience engaged and kind of generate that hype for the project?
It took a long time for us to engage in marketing activities because word of mouth and people having a great time and talking to each other about the project is mostly how the reputation of Moment Factory was built, like through little projects. Have you heard about that? And oh my God, I saw that. And then they spoke to another person. And like, it was really like that. And then we had big breaks with certain projects. And then that kind of how the interest of the public came about for some of our projects. But to be more project specific, I think the idea is to work with the community and or work for the community that the project is for, and to make sure that they feel understood and that this project is thought for them. And even if we can include the community as well, which we do in more and more of our project as well, is one way to make sure that will resonate. And so we always try to a bit like, in design thinking, like we always try to think of our users and our visitors and walk a mile in their shoes and be like, what's interesting for them? Like, are we talking to kids or families or people that don't care about art necessarily, that we want to, that like, what are we trying to do? And what are they trying to do? Like, what would they want to do and stuff? So there's that. And then there's also the idea of showing people things that they haven't seen before as well, that can be interesting, because that's the best art and the best experiences is when you didn't expect what you're gonna see or live or have as an experience. I think including the community and having the community and the visitors in mind all the time is one way. We do a lot of prototyping and user testing as well. So that's a way to kind of make sure that it'll work, because in the end, the best marketing is that the visitor has a great experience and talks about it. I think that's ultimately always the goal. And yes, you can put posters all over the place and talk about it in the media. That will create an awareness of the project. But really, the marketing happens when people have a great time and loved what happened and talk about it and want to go back or tell their friends to go or something like that.
Of course. So the very earliest form of marketing, basically.
Yes,
is what it
basically, yes.
Have you ever encountered a situation where there's like conflict, I guess, between either audiences, like some people liked it, some people didn't, or in the creative process where one group really wants one idea and the other one's like, no, this one's much better? Anything like that?
Honestly, no, because when you do projects, there's ideas, and professional creatives also have a great way to detach emotionally about ideas. And I think I had seen like a TED conference on that. It was like Elizabeth Gilbert. She talked about how the only way to not be stressed about her creativity was to think that it was something external to her. And that's a bit how professionals approach this, in the sense that yes, they have like a passion and a personal attachment to things, and that drives their practice and that drives their work. But in the end, a project is the teamwork, and nobody's the sole owner of an idea or a project. And so creative wise, that helps us kind of be able to detach from certain decisions that are made. And then the reality of project is that there's a lot of technical constraints, time constraints, budget constraints, and that pushes us to take a lot of decisions, and that sometimes maybe go against our creative will, but we always have a way of kind of making sure it works. And the way I sleep at night, let's say, when these things happen, is to always make sure that we took the best decision of all the things along the way and took as many factors in consideration when we took a decision. So it's not like, oh, this is a bad idea, it's a good idea. It's like, oh, it's a great idea, but maybe not the best for this project in that context because of the constraints of that. Therefore, let's keep it in our back pocket for next time. But we have this great opportunity, maybe not the greatest idea, but we know that we can do something amazing with that. So let's go with that, for example. And it's justifiable. And when it's logical, we take these decisions together. So it's rare that conflict arises from that, because we understand that everything is so multi-factor. So yeah.
That's awesome. It sounds like multiple different companies and institutions could take a lesson from Moment Factory on how to, collaborate in a mature and fair and reasonable way. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Also my pleasure. I'm sure it's not perfect for sure. Like it's also a process to learn that. But I personally think that's a difference between, having your own artistic practice versus working within a creative company, is exactly that, is you make compromise every day. You have to listen to others and or follow sometimes others, and vice versa. Sometimes you have to take a decision and try to rally a team around it, but there's no right or wrong, right? It's just the best we can do with what we have, with the time we have. That's always how we do things.
Yeah, but you know that going in already, and you're used to that process, and everyone's on the same page. So yeah, like you said, even if it's not perfect, to me at least, now this is my personal opinion, it sounds pretty darn close to perfect.
Well, thank you. The process can be tough, but it's about the process. It's about getting better at the process. That makes the best projects and the best results in the end.
Yes, and the journey is often more fun than the destination itself.
Well, we hope that the destination will be more fun for the visitors and
for the visitors, certainly.
Yeah, but we also know, it's funny, I think one of my colleagues said that in a video that we made. He said, how can I make the visitor have as much fun as I'm having while I'm doing that? Like, we're having a lot of darn fun every day at our job. Like, all that we laugh, the best ideas come from when we have crazy laughs around the table and all of that. So we also try to have a good time in order to make sure people have a good time. And at the end, it's also one of the things that makes hard decisions easier to take, is that when we are in a good, happy place to take them.
Yeah, and definitely whether you enjoy your work and whether you're passionate about it or not, either way, it's going to show in your work, and the people on the receiving end will notice. So clearly it's been paying off for you guys. For anyone who hasn't heard of Moment Factory, go check out their website. Just Google Moment Factory. They've done some really amazing stuff. They have a lot of videos on their sites to show you previous projects that they've worked with. Highly recommend checking that out for sure. And thank you for being with us here today, Cloé, once again. Thank you for your very astute answers. We really appreciate your input.
Thank you so much, Micaela, for having me and asking this question and taking the time to listen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Start Talking. We hope that you keep talking about all of the things that we've spoken about today and all of the art in our local Windsor-Essex community, even long after our podcast episode is over. If you're interested in finding out more about the Art Gallery of Windsor, you can find us on our website at www.agw.ca, or you can follow us on social media at AGW401. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe and be well.